Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over Bitcoin and the major Bitcoin indicators. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so before we get started with the chart of Bitcoin, I did want to show you guys another metric that I've actually seen before, but I just remembered that we could actually talk about this. So let's go ahead and talk about it. That is the Bitcoin monthly returns. Okay. So credit here goes to Rhett Capital. Again, Rhett Capital is somebody that I personally follow. He's very good at what he does in terms of crypto. So the thing I want to point out here about the Bitcoin monthly returns is usually the largest Bitcoin monthly returns that we see are in the bull run years. And again, this is not going to be perfect, but it's generally speaking in the bull run years right around Q4 of basically whatever year that Bitcoin's going up. So 2016, basically, so pretty much every 4 years we get the bear market. Okay, so you can see some red here during 2014, 2018, all red. I mean, there was nothing that wasn't red here. And then 2022, November and December was red. So it seems pretty obvious from that vantage point which years were actually red. 2019, we had kind of the mini bull run in Bitcoin. And then, of course, we had the kind of pulled back basically the last half of the year. So in terms of the halving years, you can see that there's kind of a black box surrounding the halving years. Okay. Kind of the general consensus of this chart is that during the halving years in Q4, generally speaking, the price of Bitcoin goes up. Okay. So we have green months in October, November, December at the end of the halving year, which is also around the time of the elections. And again, in 2020, 27% or 28% roughly in October, 43% November, 47% in December. So if history is to repeat itself, again, we should theoretically see 3 green months at the end of 2024. And as you guys know, the Fed's getting ready to cut rates. That's bullish for crypto and risk on assets in general. When the Fed cuts rates, that's usually when the dollar index drops off a cliff. You guys already know, we've talked about this and showed you guys this on this channel, that the dollar index and Bitcoin have an inverse correlation. So when the Fed raises rates, the dollar strengthens and it goes up, and Bitcoin drops, and the inverse is also true. So again, when the Fed cuts rates, I'm expecting the crypto market to reflect this by basically showing some massively green months, as you guys can see here. So let's go into the Google Trends for crypto. This encompasses all of crypto, not just Bitcoin. So as you guys can see, based on the previous cycles, and I know we talk about this every single week, but those of you guys that have zero patience, zero emotional control, okay? I've been doing this for a long time, y'all. I can tell you right now, if there's one thing that the markets will do to you at some point is teach you emotional control, because otherwise you're just going to keep getting wrecked over and over and over and over. I hate to be so blunt about it, but there's a lot of people that seem to have like zero control over their emotions. Like, oh God, it's going down 60%. I'm going to lose my mind. Like, guys, chill. Okay. Look, we're all in this together. Okay. We're all here to make money. We all want to make money in crypto or dividend paying stocks or whatever we're trying to do. Just understand that you're not the only one to experience a drawdown. There's probably millions or tens or hundreds of millions of people out there in every country in the world that are in their respective markets that are experiencing the same thing. So just understand that you're not alone in this, okay? But for those of you guys that have little patience, unfortunately, we're in bearish seasonality. We're going to have to wait till October to December and wait to see how the markets react to the Fed rate cuts. There's no way to get around it. Trust me, I'm tired of the Fed rate hikes too, but eventually they will come to an end. This too shall pass. So the thing I want to say about the crypto Google trends, and the same is true for Bitcoin, is that usually we are getting very close to or at a bull market top when this thing gets to around 70, 75, all the way up to 100. Okay. Have we seen anything like that before this point? No, we have not. The biggest we saw on crypto was 34, and that was in March of 2024. Okay. That was when the spot ETF started ripping Bitcoin to the moon, and we had like a little baby alt season where basically it was like the equivalent of the DeFi summer of 2020, which, yes, we were a part of that. We've been in the crypto space now for about 4 years. But yeah, we didn't see anything like the mega bull run that we saw at the end of 2020 through the first to second half of 2021. So anyways, the point I want to make here is that we're sitting at an 11, pretty much basically at the all-time lows. Okay. The bear market lows were pretty much right about the same level we're at now. Okay. So not much has really changed. And you guys got to understand one thing about the monetary easing. When the Fed cuts rates, that makes it cheaper to borrow, which means people are going to do what? They're going to do their degenerate thing, and they're going to go out there and spend money on stuff they don't need. Okay. People that are interested in markets, what are they going to do? They're going to go buy stuff to make a quick buck or make passive income or whatever they do. Okay. Everybody's going to buy whatever it is that they think is important. But the two things to note here is that basically this indicates to me that we're early in the bull run and that the retail FOMO has not really kicked in yet. Because if it kicked in, I'd be looking at something like this, okay? Big, massive peak and then a bigger peak like we talked about in CLSK and Bitcoin and all that, okay? As a matter of fact, I can literally show you that on the chart. So you can see it right here, right? Little peak in August, and then the big peak right at the end of the year, right around the time of the elections. Little peak, big peak. Okay. Little peak, big peak. Now, if we go over to Bitcoin, same thing. Little peak, big peak. Okay. Have we seen a little peak and a big peak? Well, we kind of saw one here, but not really. Again, Bitcoin hit a 55. If we're looking for a Bitcoin peak or a cycle top of some kind, we want to see this thing hit roughly about, I would say somewhere between 70 to 100 is what I'd be looking at. That seems like a reasonable estimation for potentially either getting close to a top or being at the top. Again, timing a top or a bottom in anything in equities or crypto is extremely difficult to do. Most people cannot do it. So Bitcoin currently sitting at a 19. Again, they're pretty much almost at the lows, not quite at the lows, but pretty close. I mean, this thing at the bottom of the bear market was at a 16. It's currently at a 19. I mean, you guys can make what you want of that. You can say Bitcoin's going to zero. I mean, Bitcoin's been going to zero, according to a lot of people, for like 15 years now. It still hasn't happened. And it's not going to happen, in my opinion. People that are bearish on crypto that also try to put money in the crypto space, I think they're in for a rude awakening. I'm just going to say that. So, but yeah, anyways, once again, early in the time frame of this. Okay, this is the chance to get in.
Stop filled.
Not financial advice, but this is a chance to get in before prices start ripping to the moon. And Bitcoin eventually will top out, and it'll give way to a massive alt season. And if you guys miss out on that opportunity, you may not get it for another 4 years. Some people are saying quantum computing will break and kill Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the developers will adjust, the needs of the Bitcoin network accordingly and so on. I'm not really too concerned about that. But, people have their own philosophies about what they believe to be true. Just because somebody has an opinion doesn't mean it's actually reality or is going to happen. So in terms of the fear and greed index, once again, we're in the fear zone here, but I mean, this thing swings wildly. Okay, Bitcoin could move $5,000 and this thing could go from 90 to 30. It wouldn't shock me. So this is much more volatile than the stock indicator that we use for fear and greed. The thing I do want to point out about this, once again, is that usually when this thing is sitting somewhere between a 20 to a 30 or even as low as a 10, I guess in this case. So we'll just say somewhere between 10 to 30 is usually a great time to be buying cryptocurrencies. And then when it's somewhere between a 70 to about a 90, that's a great time to be selling cryptocurrencies. Okay. So as of right now, we're more in the great time to buy cryptocurrencies. Again, if I go back to the Bitcoin chart here, you guys can see that we showed you this on X. We showed you what a textbook bull flag looks like, and it literally looks something like this. Okay. So you have your flag, and then you have your pole, and then you have your flag pole breakout. Okay. This is literally a textbook bull flag. I don't know how else to tell you all that. It's literally the largest bull flag I've ever seen ever in my investing and trading career. Could it play out to the downside? Sure. I would say the likelihood of that is probably 5 to 10%. Very small likelihood that we see a drop below this bull flag. Okay. I think that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion. Okay. I think that likely basically what's going on here is the smart money, the whales are keeping the price intentionally locked in here to try to shake out weak hands, get them out of the market before they eventually rip the price to the upside. Now they could pull they could pull a one off where they kind of just do something like this. Okay, so they kind of make you believe like, oh yeah, it's just going to stay in here, and then it kind of does maybe something like this, and then goes back in, and then bobs around, and then boom, moonshots like that. Okay, again, the undercut overcut scenario we talked about. Most of you guys that don't trade, you just invest, or you're just here for a quick buck, or oh god, crypto is the gravy train, I'm going to make $1 billion. Yeah, okay, dude, good luck with that. If you manage to do that, let me know. But you wouldn't know about this, okay? Because again, this is finite day trading details. But they may try to pull something like this, and they may spook you out of your positions, or anybody in the crypto space. Okay, it happens to a lot of people. The other reason they do this is to grab liquidity. Okay, so they'll come down here, pull below the flag, stop all these people, stops out. Okay, let's say people are long the market, they'll go down below this flag, undercut to spook people out of the markets, and simultaneously grab some liquidity before eventually taking off to the upside. That has happened countless times that I've seen in trading and investing. So MVRV, very simple. When this thing's closer to the green line, it's cheaper. When it's closer to the, or green box, I mean, to the kind of pinkish colored boxes here, it's generally more expensive. Down here is usually a good time to buy. Up here is usually a good time to sell. So what does this tell me? Basically says that we're cheaper than we are compared to being expensive. I mean, the Bitcoin price is kind of sitting up here at this 10 level, but of course I expect the whoever the creator of this chart is to kind of adjust the charts accordingly over time as needed. So Bitcoin rainbow chart, and again, the rainbow has nothing to do with it. Okay, it's just a chart. This is a regression, logarithmic regression band. As far as I know, it just happens to be multicolored. I don't really give a crap about that. Okay, I care about the chart. So the point I want to make here is usually we have a pullback immediately after the halving or some sideways action. You guys can see it's happened almost every single time here. And then eventually we do end up ripping. Okay, and these peaks subsequently come lower down. So I suspect we're probably going to top out closer towards the end of the year, next year, probably somewhere in the still cheap to hodl area. It's possible maybe Bitcoin even tops out somewhere around accumulate, although I don't think that's likely. But the point I want to make here is that usually when it says Bitcoin is dead, that's the best time to buy. And when it says maximum bubble territory or as close to this end of the spectrum as possible, that's usually the best time to sell. Nupal, again, we're not super cheap, not super expensive. We have had a little bit of cooling off here, so I would say I'm more neutral on this chart. Once again, I think Bitcoin is just kind of consolidating and slowly bleeding out to shake out the weak hands, pull out liquidity before eventually at the right time pumping to the moon. Pi cycle top indicator. So we are below this indicator. Throughout time, this thing has pulled back under the indicator without actually being in a bear market. Again, the 2019 comparison here, you can see we had a mini bull market, kind of consolidated, pulled back in that sort of flag looking pattern, eventually got out of it. Then it dropped massively on the pandemic, and then we ripped to the moon. So we're kind of seeing that flag pattern now. And the Fed is getting ready to cut rates. When the Fed cut rates last time, the market did have a massive sell-off. Again, that's a different scenario, a different kind of event. The Fed in that particular situation slammed rates to the floor in record time. This time, the market's only expecting a 25 BP cut. We're expecting kind of an easing into the cuts. So I think this thing is going to play out differently this time. In terms of the EMAs, so the current price of the EMAs, the low end is 63,500. The high end is 105,000. So that tells you right there that the green EMA here tells you that likely the top is not in for Bitcoin. Again, why do I say this? Because every time the price gets above the green band, the price of Bitcoin, that's usually the most parabolic move and the last parabolic move that Bitcoin does. In this case, in 2017, that actually was not true. It had multiple legs up after getting past the green EMA. But during this time frame in 2013, it was basically just a straight moonshot once it got above the green EMA. And then that was it. It was over. Okay. Then right here, same thing, big moonshot. Then it was over. So the fact that we're not even at the green EMA, let alone above it, tells me, again, this is another indicator that indicates to me likely the top is not in. Okay. So now let's go over Bitcoin. So one of the things I'm looking for here on the weekly time frame is kind of a break of this downtrend of the RSI. You can see I have this line here. Usually when this line gets broken, a golden cross happens on the weekly time frame and this thing will rip to the moon. You can see in July of 2023 to September of 2023, this actually happened and the move up was absolutely massive. Yeah, let me get rid of that. Okay. So anyways, kind of a similar thing happened back here during the mid-cycle dump in 2021. Eventually, the RSI broke the downtrend and it had a golden cross, and we just absolutely flew off the handle to the upside. Because of the timing of the cycle, and Bitcoin's not actually really supposed to be at all-time highs until around November to December of this year, I would say likely we're probably going to get another RSI golden cross here, and we will get another move to the upside. And you can see the RSI is trying to push above. The purple line is trying to push above the yellow line here, which indicates to me, again, that that is likely to play out. Again, the MACD is still in the bull territory on the weekly time frame, so there's a lot of things that, in my opinion, show that we're likely still not at the top. And again, you have your bull flag pattern. So the bull flag pattern target here would basically be roughly about 125,000. Now, there's a possibility it could even go higher than that. Whether it actually goes higher than that or not, that remains to be seen. So the best way to measure this basically is, I think I'm actually going to have to go to the monthly time frame for this because it'll be much more obvious there. Okay, so I'm a little off on this, but basically you guys can see like the start of the parabolic move here all the way up to the top of the flag. And then we basically just take it and expand it out. Let's say it's somewhere in December of this year. I mean, it shows 115K, but again, this is not meant to be an exact predictor of price. It's just kind of generally meant to indicate that prices are going to be higher over time. So in terms of the Fibonacci retracement levels, we'll take a look at the local level and also the macro level. So the local level says that basically there's a chance that we could go as high as 150,000, which again, I have said that I think somewhere between 150 to maybe even as low as 140 to 250,000 is possibly within the realm of possibility this cycle. But if I were to kind of do, let's say, a previous cycle high to a previous cycle low, again, this is the macro version, whereas we were looking at the micro version before. You can see the top target is up here, roughly about $250,000. Okay, so in terms of the flag, what are we looking at the flag? On the flag, so basically the short of this is, as long as the price stays within the flag and it does not break down bearish outside of the flag, then I would say we're still good to eventually break out, okay? Because no matter how you want to look at this, you can look at this actually one of three ways, okay? You can look at this as a bull flag, which in this case would be a bullish pattern, okay? There's a much higher probability of the price going to the upside, which again, a bull flag is a bullish pattern. You can look at this as a descending channel, which again is a bullish pattern. You could even look at this as potentially a falling broadening wedge. Okay, if I were just to do this based on the wicks and not the bodies, you can see it's actually a falling broadening wedge, which again, even still is a bullish pattern. So there's literally nothing here based on TA that shows me that the likelihood of a dump is realistic. Now, we did get a break below this trend line here. I mean, if I'm just connecting the dots here based on how many times this thing was retested, we did actually get a break below it. So that's a little bit concerning, but we're still inside the flags. So in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. I think the real level to hold here is this primary one, which again currently sits at roughly about 40,000. So if we went if Bitcoin went any lower than 40,000, then I would be like, okay, guys, yikes, maybe the bear market's here. But we haven't seen that. Okay. So, of course, I know if Bitcoin went to 40,000, a lot of you guys would probably be crapping your pants and overreacting emotionally and freaking out. Oh, good, I'm so screwed, blah, blah, blah. Look, guys, I've told you before, not financial advice, but the old saying goes, never invest more than you can afford to lose. Whether you guys choose to violate that rule that's been common in traditional markets for probably centuries at this point, that's up to you. Um, I'm just telling you guys what I see. There is a small chance this thing could go down to 40,000. Do I think that's going to happen? Not really. Um, Again, I mean, we're in September, dude. We got 2-3 months till Bitcoin's supposed to go to the moon. We got the elections. The Fed's going to cut rates. Monetary easing's coming. This is not a pandemic situation like back in 2020. Okay, so I don't think any flash crash is imminent. We already had a flash crash last month, and that the market's basically just did a V-shaped recovery. So I don't see any imminent danger to the price of Bitcoin. So we already talked about the Bitcoin dominance. If we're going to see a surge in the altcoins, the Bitcoin dominance has to fall off a cliff. Again, we're not seeing that right now. So as soon as we do, we'll let you know. Okay, so Bitcoin dominance is still relatively high. ETH Bitcoin has not had a rip yet. And I mean, the reality is Bitcoin is still in the spotlight. It's probably still going to be in the spotlight until probably sometime around Q1 of next year. I don't think that's going to change. So, which means that people that are investing in altcoins theoretically should have more time to buy altcoins before eventually it's too late and they'll be expensive and everybody else is going to FOMO in at higher prices. Do you want to be the guy buying at high prices or at low prices? Do you want to be the guy that buys when it's exciting and you're getting all emotionally excited about it? Oh yeah, Bitcoin's going to the moon, crypto going to the moon. Or do you want to be the guy like Ethan, for example, who buys LTC in at $2 and is just sitting on gains? Which guy do you want to be? It's up to you. You got to ask yourself that question. So last thing I want to point out here is the Bitcoin yearly chart. Okay. So every 4 years we see excluding these 3 years here, every 4 years we see a Bitcoin bear market. And in between those, we have 3 bull market years. Okay. Year of the halving, which is the second year, the election year also is usually green. So 2014, 2018, 2022, we're all red. So theoretically 2026 should be red, which means that we should have green for the rest of this year and next year. And keep in mind, this year is also the election and the halving years. What happens after those years, generally speaking, we have the biggest move up for Bitcoin and altcoins following that year. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.